Hello there, this is D, and welcome to Uneven. I am sitting on my back porch this morning, sipping on my chai and relaxing a bit. It's supposed to get up to 78 degrees here today, and I thought I'd enjoy the weather. But for many people, that's kind of hard to do. There's a lot of news in this world, and a lot of news that can be incredibly unsettling. Just last night, Iran launched 300 drones and missiles into Israel. They stated that it was retaliation for the April 1st bombings of their embassy in Syria. And Israel has vowed to exact a price for this attack. And many people in the world are afraid that Israel's impending response will only escalate this conflict into a wider war. The world is scary. And we as individuals, human beings, have to figure out how we deal with that. Does it cause anxiety? Does it cause fear, worry for so many people, for so many different reasons? For some people, they can tune it out. They don't pay attention to the news. I've done that many times in my life. In fact, for 5 years, I tuned out news almost entirely when I was recovering from benzodiazepines because I was so raw, so fragile, that I couldn't handle negative news. So I just stopped watching and listening. I did my best to get through each day, but now I'm stronger and I pay some attention, although still I am definitely far from being a news junkie. But here's the thing with the conflict in the Middle East. I am not smart enough to comment. I don't know enough. I really don't. Far more educated people than me have opinions about this. And I don't need to be one of those. So instead, I catch what I can, but I don't pay a lot of attention to it. I pick up pieces along the way. Some of it makes me concerned. Some of it I can pass on by because, not to be self-centered here, but it's far away. Does it affect what I do here in the state of Colorado and the USA? Sure, to a degree, but not directly. Not like it does for people who live in that region, who have people and relatives and family in that region who are directly affected by things that happen in that region. All I know is that it's a conflict that has been going on for a very, very long time. And it has a very complicated history. But what gets me thinking about this is, how do we deal with events like this that are going on? What do we choose to pay attention to? I think that's a real good question. What do we choose to pay attention to? This weekend, in addition to the news from Israel and Syria and the Middle East, 6 people were stabbed to death at a Sydney shopping mall, and more than 24 river barges broke free and damaged a bridge in Ohio, and there was a mass shooting in Chicago with one small child was killed. If you're looking for negative news, you can always find it. But that leaves us as individuals to wonder, what do I pay attention to? What do I choose to pay attention to? And does it make sense for me to get more involved and more intrigued and more curious and learn more, knowing that it might negatively affect my mood and my spirit and my well-being? Or to avoid it and stay away from it, knowing that maybe I might be a little happier and yet naive? Or is this a far more complicated question than I can answer here? And I think we know it's the latter. This is really complicated. Choosing when to pay attention to something, choosing what to listen to, choosing how involved to be, choosing whether to accept things as they are, or to protest and act and be an activist and fight against things because you want to make things better. This is something all of us struggle with. I do all the time. I stayed out of things and I just kept my opinions to myself and avoided news for a long time because it was so overwhelming to me emotionally. I was very raw coming off these drugs and my system couldn't handle. I would get worked up about one news item and it would carry with me for a day or two, maybe longer. I couldn't let it go. That's the fun of coming off of benzodiazepines. I didn't have the brakes to slow down, to calm myself after things like this. But now that I'm a little stronger, how do I behave? How do I respond to things? We live in a world where we have way too much information. Just too much information. It's wonderful, and yet it's a curse. Because we don't know what to trust. I think if anything in this world, I say that sometimes, but I think a big consequence of our technology and our modern society is lack of trust, distrust. We don't know who to trust anymore. Do we trust news? The trust for media and for news has never been lower in this country. And it's because so many people, there's so many sources, there's so many places to go to for news, and everyone seems to have a bias. I've asked many times to find a completely unbiased news source, and there's some that definitely try. And I try to seek out some of those because I would like to have news that I think is more objective, down the middle, because that's kind of where I am. Well, I lean a little more now. I did. I hope you're enjoying our bird in the tree. But I want to seek out that middle of the road news, so I'm getting information from both sides and not just maybe a side that I lean to at this point. I don't want to become that person who is entrenched into one extreme ideology. I don't want to become that person. I never have, and I've avoided it because I'm more centrist, but it's easy to do. And it's so easy to do today because our online media and our social media and everything else feeds you what you will click on. And most of the time, that's biased. Because it's going to give you things that either you like or maybe even that make you irate. Confirmation bias is going to confirm what you already believe, and it keeps escalating that ideology. I think that's really dangerous, and I think that's where we've gotten to in this country now, and it's a scary place. And I think when you look at conflicts overseas like this, this may be what happens when you've had that type of divisiveness carry on for centuries. But how do we handle it? How do we handle the news that's out there? How do we deal with it? Like I said, one thing I try to do is I try to find as objective of news as I can when I can. I found a few sources that I think are relatively objective, and I try to watch those, but I also try not to watch too much news. I know some people that have on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC 24/7. They can't turn it off. They're just drawn into this, and I wonder what that does to them. And I worry about that as I'm watching a wasp fly right by my head. It's wearing big picture, world conflict, and small picture, D and the wasp. Oh, he landed, so I can go back to what I'm doing. But for those of us who struggle with anxiety and fear and worry all the time and don't have maybe the breaks, either chemically like myself coming off benzodiazepines, or maybe just because you've had a lifelong experience with anxiety and it's built up, or you've been wired that way your whole life and you've always been an anxious and nervous person, or it just come on recently, it doesn't matter, or maybe PTSD or whatever else you're suffering from. But that's made you more heightened to worry, more likely to worry. For those of us, this is harder than for the rest. We don't seem to have the system that manages negative news well. We process it negatively. Well, hello there. I am back again. I took a brief break there. As we were talking, my wife came home with our dog Murphy. He had just gotten a bath and was going kind of crazy, so I needed to say hi to everybody and kind of settle things down. That's actually a pretty good timing, because sometimes when things get crazy in the world, it's the simple things like that at home that can lift your spirits. And a totally crazy, wild 65-pound dog who's half wet running around the house can, I don't know, it can change your mood on times. But I decided to come back out front now, so I'm on my front porch to finish this up. But while I was away, of course, I figured out all the answers to all these questions. Yeah, like that's going to happen. I don't know the answers. I don't know the answers to these questions at all, because I can't. I mean, these questions are individual. When do you pay attention? What do you pay attention to? When do you speak out? When do you not speak out? When do you become active? When do you protest? When do you do something? How involved do you become is an individual question. In a world where I think we're being pushed into being activists, I think we need to understand that maybe that's not the right thing for everybody. And sometimes it's okay to listen and to think through things. The question I have with picking for me, I'm this middle ground guy, and you've known that, so I'm just going to come out and say this, but when you pick a cause, or a cause picks you, whatever happens, and you fight hard, and you protest, and you're active, and you're involved in everything, I think the question we never ask ourselves, because I don't think we really want to ask ourselves this question, is, what if you're wrong? What if that cause you're fighting for, you're fighting on the wrong side? And the reason I ask this is because with most causes, with most things, and say this, with Israel and Hamas is a perfect example. Most people who are fighting on the side of Israel are 100%, 110% sure they are right in this conflict. And I'll guarantee you, most of the people that are over on the Hamas side, and Palestinians and people who are fighting on that side, are 110% sure they are right. Now, if you do the math, it doesn't quite work out. In my experience in life, I usually come to the point that the truth is mostly in the middle on most things. I'm not saying for this conflict, because I don't know the answers and I don't really know what's going on, and I'm not about to give you my opinion because it's uneducated, and I will admit that. But how you respond, how you pay attention, and how you deal with your anxiety, if you do, is up to you, and it's up to us, and how I deal with it is up to me. I am more of a processor, a thinker. I believe most things in life take some thought. Do a little research, learn what you can, talk to different people, learn more about the situation, understand it better, understand both sides. And yes, there are always two sides to any type of disagreement. Understand where you're coming from. Understand where others are coming from so you can help develop your own opinion. I do feel like sometimes we jump on the bandwagon so fast these days. And we suddenly think we have all the answers, and we're adamant that this is the only way to be. And I'm not sure that's true. Then again, I could be utterly and totally wrong. and often am. But with those of us with anxiety, who are driven to be active and vocal and protest and all these sorts of things, the question I want to ask is, what is that doing to you? How are you dealing with this? How is your mood? How is your emotions? How is your mental well-being? I think sometimes you got to step back and look at that and say, is this worth it? Or is this the right time? I'm asking far more questions a day than providing possible solutions, and I know that because I don't know the answers here. I struggle with this. I've been in many situations where my opinion on a subject is direct opposite of what other people in the room are saying. And I've held my tongue. Because I knew speaking out might end poorly for me, or it might end poorly for the meeting, or it might not be productive, or I might just not be liked by people in the room, because that's, I mentioned on this podcast before, something I've had most of my life. I want to be liked by others. But in those situations, when is it the right time to speak out? When is it the right time to stand up? When is it the right time to stand strong for your values and beliefs? And when is it the right time to hold your tongue? When is it the right time to try to listen to what they're saying? When is it the right time or just to walk away? What's the answer? When is the right time just to ignore the news entirely? Those 5 years that I didn't watch news, I can't say I missed much. And it was a very difficult time for me based on the news of the day that was happening. That I don't know how my healing would have taken place if I had been actively involved or actively listening and paying attention. It was strong enough of a trigger for me that I'm not sure I would have done as well. I really don't think I would have. So at that time, at that place, it made sense for me to step back, stay out of it for a while. But now that I'm stronger, and I am stronger, and now that I have more curiosity into everything that's happening, hope you enjoy some of the background sounds here of my neighborhood. Some bikes going by. But now that I'm stronger, I realize that I do need to stand up at times for what I believe in. I think that's important. And I've decided kind of where that line is. And I think we all have that line. That line of where you just let people that are around you just talk on about their point and you try to listen to them. And then that line where, okay, you crossed and here's when I need to say something. And it's not just when to speak out, but it's also how you speak out. I think that's equally as important. You can state your opinions without making it personal. Even if the person you're talking to is diametrically opposed from you, you can speak your mind and say, this is how I feel. You know, from what I've seen, this is my opinion on this. There are ways to present things to still be strong about what you believe, but maybe not be so dogmatic or condescending. I think we can have ways of doing that, but rounding this all up and trying to wrap this up to the conversation I'm trying to have today is this. Those of us who struggle with anxiety and worry and fear and everything day in and day out, it's harder for us to live in this world of constant information, constant overload, constant stimulation, constant conflicts in Ukraine and Middle East, wherever they're going on, and the divisiveness in the different countries and the different political parties that can't seem to even be in the same room with each other. I'm not about to say that it's worse now than it's ever been, because I don't believe that. But it's difficult now for different reasons. And for those of us who don't handle that as well, it makes it a rough time to be here. Hey, it's me again. I'm back outside in the backyard this time. My wife took off. She headed up to her folks and to spend the rest of the day, and I'm going to hang out here by myself. We all need that sometimes. I need some me time. She needs some me time. Sometimes I hit the road to have some me time. One of the things I really gained from that time is just missing her. It's good to miss her, and it's good to be apart sometimes, so we miss her, and so that we have new stories to share with each other. We spend a lot of time together, and sometimes we need to spend our own time outside of that time together so we can bring information, stories, and experiences back to the marriage. I think that's good, but that's relationships, and that's for another time. Anyway, while she's up at her folks, I am flicked on the Masters here. It's the final day of the Masters golf tournament, and I'm going to watch that. That's something I do almost every year. I like to watch the Masters. I don't watch a lot of golf, but I do like watching the Masters, and I think it's, for as much the beauty of it, just the beauty of that course, as it is for the competition, but I enjoy that. So I'm going to have that on in the background, and then I'll be editing this down, and I'll be working in the basement and watching the Masters. It sounds like a really good afternoon to me, and I'm going to enjoy that. So, but back to our subject. It's interesting because when I took that short break as my wife was leaving, I had some other thoughts, and I wanted to mention a couple of things because there is so much news out there, and we, regardless of what we try to do, we always see the negative news more than the positive. And maybe it's human nature because we're more attracted to the negative news. Not that we want it, but that's what grabs our attention and what we click on and what we go watch. And so that's where our attention is most of the time. There's always positive news, and there's tons of positive news, but maybe it's not as exciting or as addictive or as, I don't know, maybe this doesn't draw us in like the scandals and the shootings and the wars do. I don't know what that says about us, but I don't think it's good. Anyway, one of the things I had mentioned on here was about just finding other sources and being exposed to other sources of information to balance out our input, because I do think that's a significant factor of why we're so divided, and that is this bias, this confirmation bias that we experience, because for the first time really in human history, we can choose, both consciously and unconsciously, but we can choose what we watch completely. I mean, before you could switch channels, and before you could switch radio stations, and you could read different books. And we had that, but never at the speed and the availability we have now with the internet, social media, and phones. And now what's new is the algorithms. These algorithms give you certain information. And they give you information that you're going to click on. And that's usually confirmation bias, as I mentioned. And I'm guilty because even though I'm not on social media, I don't have any personal accounts on social media anymore. I got rid of those. I only have some corporate accounts for my channel. I have one of those on X. I used to have one on Facebook. I don't right now. And some other places to help promote this channel. But I don't have my personal ones. I stay off them. I like that choice for myself, and that's how I do. But I do have my addiction, and my addiction is mostly YouTube and other video sources like that. So, and right now my YouTube is full of all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to share all of it, but if you go on there right now, you're going to see a lot of RV stuff because I like being on the road, and RVing is appealing to me. Might get one day. You're going to see dog training because we have a new dog, and I'm trying to figure out how to get him trained. He's a puppy right now, a 1-year-old puppy, but I'm trying to get him trained. You're going to see a lot of philosophy and psychology and some politics and some news and the usual mix. I do want to share one that I just came across. I literally came across this one the other day, and I thought it's one to share. Many of you probably already found it because this channel has millions, like a couple million subscribers, and some of his videos have multiple millions of views. But his name is Peter Santenello, and I just came across him. I think it's fascinating, and what I like about this feeds our subject today, and that's why I want to bring up references, and I want to bring up resources that I can mention to you in case they're ones you want to check out. So if you want to check out his channel, his name is Peter Santenello, Santenello. I wrote it on a piece of paper so I could read it to you. But what I like is this gentleman, he's been doing it for some time. I think I'm late to the game here, but he goes and interviews and talks to people in communities of all types all around the world, mostly without an agenda at all. I think the whole intention is zero agenda, just goes in and lets people talk and ask them questions and learns about them in their own voice and what's going on. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I've seen maybe 5-10 videos of his so far, and I'm starting to watch more. My wife's getting into it now, and we're starting to watch more. But it opens your eyes. It opens to your eyes to how other people live, and it opens your eyes to how much we are alike and where we're different. And I think those are two really good things. But mostly, I love that it tears down the barriers and the stigma of different groups of people in different regions of the country. I know I had that, and I love listening and reading about it. I did one about the Mississippi Delta and people who live in one of the poorest sections of the South in the Mississippi Delta, and it was really interesting to see the people he interviewed and struggles they're going through and what they deal with. And then he did one with Las Vegas, comparing the people who are struggling and poor there with the people who are wealthy. And he's done all kinds and all different walks of life all over this country and all over the world. And it's going to take me a long time to start to watch some of these and catch up. But in my point of view, this is a good thing. This is a good thing because this is the stuff that opens our eyes to what other people think and what other people are experiencing and what other people are really like. Not how media portrays people who are different than us, but how those people who are different than us really are. And I find that fascinating. And I'm so blessed that I'm curious enough that I want to know what's really happening and what people are really like. And I enjoy that and I thrive on that. So if you're looking for a way to slowly start opening your eyes to different things, maybe this is the channel to check out. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it's just one that came to mind. One of the things that always shocks me is when I go through YouTube and suddenly I come across my channel, which does happen sometimes. I'm going, oh my God, I created that. That's so weird. To see a video pop up, that's mine. I don't get a lot of hits or views. Mine still is a very small channel. In fact, my new podcast is very small at about, 40 or 50 views, or listens, I guess 40, 50 listens so far on each one. But I know it will pick up. If anything is similar to my other channel, the Benzo Free Podcast, my other podcast, this will pick up and I will start doing some things remote and get there. Anyway, I can keep rambling, but I'm not going to. I want to close this out as my dog is now trying to eat a large chunk of sod. Maybe I should bring him inside. Murphy. Enough. Murphy, stop. Hey, stop it. The problem is that usually leads into him eating grass and dirt and then eventually, come on, let's go inside. Murphy, come on. Here, I got your bone. I got your bone. Come get your bone. Come on. Let's go. I'm going to bring it inside. Come on. Let's get you. You want to say hi? You going to breathe to the mic? Okay, come on, get your bone. You got some dirt on you. Shan just gave you a bath and you already got dirt on you. What am I going to do with you? Here's your bone. Go ahead. Get your bone. Go ahead. Go on. Okay, I got my dog inside. Now he can't eat dirt for a little bit, so thanks for your patience on that. Back inside now. I'm going to sit down for a second. This one I might have to edit down a little bit. I guess this is my fourth section I've recorded. One on the back patio, one on the front porch, one on the back patio, and now one inside. It's a little bit all over the place. But, I'm just going to edit it down. This one I will do a little editing. Most of them I try to keep them just like they are when I recorded them. But on this one, I know I jumped around a lot, and there's probably some sections I can just cut out a little bit to make it a little more concise, and I think that's a good thing. And that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to stop talking to you for a minute and go downstairs and put this on my computer, listen to it, edit it down a little bit, get it ready, and maybe get it out today. It's nice to finally be doing a podcast episode in real time again. We've gotten those first 36 out that I recorded over the last few months, and now we're going to start recording real-time not videos, but real-time recordings, and we're still doing audio only. I don't know if one day I'll do video again. I've done it before with my previous podcast and done it with other things on my channel. But each time I do that, I come back to audio. There's two key things here. One, which is what I say most of the time, which is I like the intimacy of just talking to you, where there's not a face you put there. You just hear a voice, and I can be whatever you want it to be. But just a friend, you can put any kind of, avatar on my on my voice that you want to. But I think there's an intimacy to just voice that I really enjoy. And so I like that aspect of it. But equally, I'll have to be honest, because I'm trying to be as honest as possible about all my issues here. It's so much easier. And while, yeah, it's so much easier in production and post-production, I don't have to set up a camera, worry about lighting. I don't have to bug people by having lighting and a camera going and people wondering what I'm doing. I don't have to edit it down or pull in some B-roll or all that kind of stuff that went with doing videos. But also that flexibility and mobility of just having a digital recorder in my hand that I can carry around with me, that I can talk to people if I want to. I can be wherever I want to, and I can just pull this out and record and not worry about what the scene's like or what the light, anything, all those details. I don't have to worry about that. But when I have something to say, I can just say it. And I think that makes this so much more real, so much more personal and authentic. So I'm sticking with audio for now. Maybe we'll do some video, and I hope to do some live streams, and maybe those will be some video, But right now, I just like talking to you like this. Anyway, it's Sunday. If you're listening to this on Sunday, then go enjoy yourself or relax or watch something or take a walk or watch the squirrels or anything that might ease your mind, recenter you, and get you ready for the week ahead. That is my wish. Thanks for joining me on this Sunday. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now. Hey, this is Dee. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out our podcast. I do need to remind everyone that this podcast is for informational purposes only and should never be considered medical, psychological, or professional health advice of any kind. If you or someone you know is dealing with significant mental health issues, please seek professional help. Resources can be found in our show notes and on our website at unevenpodcast.com. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you on the flip side.